In this video, we are going to talk about 3 Taylor Swift lyrics that show fearful avoidant signs. I am Pauline and I am so happy you are here because this is something completely different. I love Taylor Swift, have for years and years and years. Her lyrics are just so good. Um, the way she writes stories, and I had already noticed in some of her lyrics there were fearful avoidant tendencies. And to be very, very clear, I am not diagnosing Taylor Swift here. That is never somebody else's place to do. I don't even really think she's a fearful avoidant. Obviously, she's also an artist, so some of her songs are autobiographical. How do you say that? Are really about herself. Some aren't, and you never know which ones are what. She could pull inspiration from any source. So this really, truly says nothing about Taylor Swift. I just noticed some of the things that she said in some of her lyrics that show fearful avoidance signs. But then again, a lot of movies and a lot of songs actually do. So please don't take this as me diagnosing Taylor Swift, because that is really not my intention and really not my place. And I don't even think she's a fearful avoidant. But there are some lyrics. So I thought it would be kind of interesting maybe to talk about 3 different songs, or 3 different lyrics. And the first one is Back to December. This was the first song I thought, oh, this might be these are like fearful avoidant signs kind of between the lines. And Back to December is all about how she's looking back on a relationship with a guy that was actually really good for her. And she still said goodbye, and she didn't call him on his birthday, and he was waiting for her. And this just all sounds so familiar, but also the way she's talking about him, like, you were so good to me and I didn't see it then, I took it for granted. That is what a lot of fearful avoidants do when they are in that relationship. It's like them being nice and being there for you. You really take that for granted, and it even kind of scares you a little bit. And then when you're out of that relationship, then comes the regret. And this is like the flip-flopping of the fearful avoidant also. This comes back in so many ways and so many patterns. But being in a relationship, you only see the things that you don't like or are struggling with, and you're actually keeping them at a distance because it's kind of coming too close almost. And then when you look back on the relationship, it's like, shit, they were actually really good to me. They were really nice to me. I actually really loved them, but why was I acting this way? Why didn't I see it then? Why didn't I treat you that way? And I love how she reflects on this, talking about swallowing my pride, standing in front of you, saying, I'm sorry for that night. And that is vulnerability, but after the fact. So it is really hard to be vulnerable for a fearful avoidant in a relationship. And she actually talks about that in this song too. How you held me in your arms that September night, the first time you ever saw me cry. And that is being vulnerable. And then she talks about in those darker months, so from December onward, that's when she kind of broke up with him or left the relationship. And that was after she became vulnerable, and that maybe was pretty hard for her to do. So it's such an interesting song, where she kind of regrets not really going for the relationship, not realizing what she had, which is a fearful avoidant sign. Like, looking back on it, you can so clearly see how amazing they were. You can sometimes even feel the feelings completely because it's not real anymore. They're not really there. And it's easier to long for somebody and to allow your feelings for somebody if the relationship is not real in this moment. And chances are that when at that point she would have gone back to that relationship, I think it was Taylor Lautner she wrote the song about, rumored. Um, if she would have gone back to that relationship, she probably would have taken it for granted again, unless she would have healed a lot of things in herself in the meantime. So this is the interesting thing about the fearful avoidant attachment style. Sometimes when you're out of the relationship, you can see so clearly that you that actually was such a good relationship and you actually did love them, but it was just not possible to feel that within the relationship because there's so many fears and subconscious beliefs and just patterns and protection mechanisms that cause you to kind of take distance and yeah, and see the things that you don't like or that aren't going right. So Back to December is a really interesting song if you look at it from a fearful avoidance perspective. And then she wrote a song, actually I think it's on her last album, about Midnight Rain, it's called, and about him being sunshine and she wanted midnight rain, or she was midnight rain, and he wanted it comfortable, I wanted that pain. Oh, and that again, I heard that, I was like, oh, this is so this sounds so familiar, that you meet a really good guy, a really nice guy, and they are just like too much sunshine. They are too happy. She actually talks about it being a picture perfect holiday postcard, except for him, that was every day. And this can really kind of make you feel like there's something wrong with you, that you want that pain and that you don't want all that happiness. And obviously, there's nothing wrong with you, but when you do have some sort of trauma, it's hard to allow just happiness and sunshine to be your constant. And you can feel disrespect towards people who only have that sunshine and happiness, because those people really do exist. Can you imagine? Um, and you feel like they're not being truthful or they're suppressing things, and it might be, but it might also be that people are just really optimistic and just love being happy. They just love being happy. I so remember, um suddenly remember Sierra once saying at the Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith that she said, I love being happy, and she was talking about a time when she wasn't happy, and I was like, whoa, yeah, love loving being happy is a possibility. Whoa, yeah. That was such an insight, because I think I already realized that I always had this tendency to um feel like being happy was a chore, was something I had to do, was something I had to work at and fight for and struggle for. So it wasn't something that felt so light and easy as I just love being happy. um and and I think these Taylor Swift lyrics kind of reflect that too, that she is just more comfortable with pain. So she's singing, she's saying, he wanted comfortable, I wanted that pain, but for her, pain is comfortable, and comfortable feels uncomfortable because it is unfamiliar. Maybe I'm reading into things, obviously, but because I do not know Taylor Swift, but she felt probably more comfortable with pain than with sunshine and being comfortable. um so it's interesting, right? And I'm not saying like she was wrong for leaving these relationships, or she should have stayed. Absolutely not. I think everybody evolves and everybody grows, and that's normal. That's totally fine. And it's also okay to not want certain things right now and to want certain things right now. Um, but it's just interesting to see the way she talks about guys, boys being good to her, and how she kind of deals with that, or is struggling with that in a way. So yeah, Midnight Rain is also just a very, very beautiful, interesting song. And then the third lyric is some one verse. I don't even really know what song that comes from, but it says nothing safe is worth the drive. And I remember this one because this is one of the lyrics I heard when I was kind of still in the fearful avoidant crash state. I'm actually gonna look it up. I should have done that before this video, but I'm just gonna keep talking. Um, I remember hearing that while I was still in the fearful avoidant, almost the crash state. I think I was kind of getting out of it. But I thought, oh yes, oh yeah. So you can't choose anything safe because nothing safe is worth the drive. And this is something that is portrayed so often in movies and in, well, especially in movies, I think in books too, but that you always choose the non-safe option. You always choose the like, how do you say that in English? You always choose the partner that kind of like is exciting, but that's not the right word. You always choose the non-safe partner, right? That's always, if a guy is stable and safe, you know that that's not who she's gonna end up with in a typical romantic movie, right? And so this was just kind of like a reflection of that, I think. Nothing safe is worth the drive, and it's just not true. It's not true, Taylor. I think she knows that by now, maybe. I think it's from the song Treacherous, as I see these lyrics coming up. Um, and it's so interesting because as I've healed and as I'm doing this, this part about movies, about really portraying the safe choice as the wrong choice, it just, I can get so frustrated by that, because you need safe. Safe is your base to build your relationship on. You cannot build a relationship on um um on tension, on, how do you say that? How do you say that? I am not finding the words. On drama, on, there's a word I'm looking for. It might come up. You cannot build a relationship on that, on intense feelings, on passion, if passion means, drama and also fighting a lot. Um that is not a relationship that will have a lot of longevity, probably. And so it's so important that we know that these movies and these lyrics and songs, they're not true. And I know you think you know that. I thought I knew. And then I realized that they definitely did influence me way more than I thought. So anything safe is worth the drive, because safe is the basis for everything. Every couple that has been happily married or happily together for a long, long time will tell you that their base, their foundation is friendship. It's friendship. And that sounds so non-passionate and non-sexy, probably to a fearful avoidant. But that's what you build a relationship on. That's a very solid base. You cannot build a relationship on something that is not safe. That's just ludicrous. So nothing safe is worth the drive is the lyric, and that is what a unhealed fearful avoidant would definitely say. Like, when it's safe, it's settling, and it's not true love, and that's just complete and utter bullshit. So I'm just kind of seeing if I could. Oh yeah, she's saying that nothing safe is worth the drive, and I would follow you home. I'll follow you home. This kind of sounds almost dangerous, right? Like, you are unsafe. I'm gonna follow you home. Don't do that, Taylor. Please don't do that. Just allow safety, because there is passion in safe relationships. I think a lot of fearful avoidance, you might think that too, that when you choose a safe relationship, it's boring, and it's not. It's not. You don't have these intense triggered emotions with the highs and the lows, and that's what you're actually missing in a safe relationship. But why a safe relationship is not boring is because when you allow yourself to be vulnerable and to follow the connection to wherever it leads you, that is very interesting, and it will surprise you again and again and again. But as a fearful avoidant, you're probably quite scared of that. And so safe relationships actually feel boring out of resistance. You don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to open up. You don't want to show yourself. So, um, saying nothing safe is worth the drive is actually could actually be just not really being able to allow safety, to allow relaxation, to allow yourself to feel safe, and then to grow from that. Um, and again, I'm not saying Taylor Swift is a fearful avoidant. Everybody is a mix of different attachment styles, so these are just some lyrics that kind of portray that could very well be influenced by movies or by experiences from her friends. So, um, yeah, I just wanted to have some almost concrete examples to talk about. Did you find this interesting? Let me know in the comments below. Um, because I guess we could do this more, but it's Taylor Swift lyrics where this was definitely the most apparent. And nobody writes lyrics like Taylor Swift, so I'm not sure if I can do this with other people. But do let me know if this was valuable to you, if you recognize this too, if there are other songs or lyrics that you are wondering, like, is this fearful avoidant? Is this healthy? Please let me know. Post them in the comments below. And yeah, I'm so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one.